This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here, and today we're going back to the late 1800s where Charles Babbage was working on the first general purpose mechanical computer called the analytical engine. There was a female mathematician also working on it, and she was the first to recognize that the machine had applications beyond pure calculation and published the first algorithm intended to be carried out by such a machine. As a result, she is regarded as the first computer programmer. Her name is Ada Lovelace. So today, you're going to play as Lovelace Babbage and other mathematicians creating algorithms that will be using their own unique abilities and subroutines. Now this is going to provide you asymmetric gameplay and new challenges. Lovelace and Babbage is for 2 to 4 players, takes 15 to 30 minutes to play, and is published by Artana Games. Now it's on Kickstarter right now. I got a chance to play this game at Gen Con without even knowing it was going to Kickstarter, and I loved it. So I'm going to be doing sort of a sneak peek and mini review of this, and this is not a paid preview, and I have not been compensated for this video in any way. It's sort of a very exception to my rule that I don't review Kickstarter games, but I just happen to have played this one before it came out, and this is the reason. So let me show you how it works, and I'll see you on the other side. This is a Kickstarter preview, so all the art and components you see here are subject to change, and you'll want to see the Kickstarter page to see all the final art and components. For example, I'll be showing you cards with stickers on them and things like that, some hand-cut components. These are obviously prototype. At the beginning of the game, each player gets to select a character, and as you can imagine, Ada Lovelace and Charles Babbage are there, plus 2 others. Once you select your character, you take all of these subroutine cards from that character and place them in front of you. And once you have those character cards, you'll place them face up. You can see different abilities that are on there and some different numbers that you're going to be trying to get to. These cards are subroutines. Now the game is played over 4 rounds. Each player is going to get one of these sheets, and each of these big columns is 1 round. In each round, you're going to be programming different operations to come up with different numbers for certain reasons. Now at the beginning of a round, there's a pre-programming phase where each player will select one subroutine to place on top that they're going to possibly be able to activate this round. The other ones can kind of sit around below it just like that, but this is the one that I may try to use this round. So here we have the main board. Now, as you can see, there's some operations here. There's 2 rows that are actually printed on the board. And these operations are like plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 5, swapping numbers, and big numbers and as multiplying and dividing. These are different operations that you're going to be using to manipulate numbers to try and match the numbers that are on one of these many different patrons. Now there's a certain amount of patrons placed out each round depending on the number of players. In this case it's a 4-player game, so there's 7 different patrons, and you're trying to get your operations to match some of these numbers because then you'll gain influence shown on the card. One of those 2 you'll get to select from if you're the first one there. We'll go over that in just a bit. So this is the type of influence you'll gain if you're able to get your operations to match that number. So why is that influence important? Because if you're able to check mark off on your sheet an influence from this patron by getting your operations, your numbers to match this, then you'll be getting check marks here, and at the end of the game, whoever has the most check marks in these different areas of influence will get 9 points. Second place will get 4 points. So it's area majority, if you will, in different types of influence that you'll find from the different patrons. Now you'd move to the programming phase once everything is set up. Now normally anybody's sheet and their subroutine would not be in the middle of the table near all this. This would be in front of yourself, but I wanted to put everything on camera so you can see how the game really works. So each round of the 4 rounds, you're going to have a certain amount of operations. In this one, it's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You see 5 blank lines. Everyone starts with 55, which essentially is the number everyone starts with. And from that, once everyone's ready, you go. This is a real-time game where you're going to be selecting at the beginning of the game. You only have these 8 operations available to you in rows A and B that are printed on the board, and you can use these operations to manipulate the number that you've started with. And again, you're trying to get numbers that match either your subroutine or some of these patrons. So again, it's going to be real time, and players are going to be doing this as fast as they can. But let's say my first operation, I say A1. So this is me using A1. This operation can either add or subtract 1 from the number that's above it, 55. So I'd say A1 minus So A1 minus basically says it's 55, minus A1, which is 1, is 54. Now this is cool because this patron is 54, but as you'll see in just a moment at the end of this round, I may or may not get this depending on the amount of players and if people were faster than me finishing their entire program, but we'll go over that later. Now you would continue. Now my number is 54 and I want to manipulate that to try to get as many things correct or matched up as I can. And so let's say some time has passed and I did A4. A4 is this. This actually swaps the two numbers. So it swapped 54 into 45. Then I did A1 to add 1 to it, and now I have 46 because I'm going to try to complete this subroutine that I selected at the beginning of the round and show you how these work in subsequent rounds. So let's say over the next couple of things here, I did B2 minus. B2 is minus 20, so I minus 20 from 46 and got 26. And then I said B2 minus again. I have 6 because I minus 20 from that, and I would be done. If I was the first one to complete my entire program for the first round, I would then take the timer and flip it over. The rest of the people have that much time to finish their program for this round. If they don't finish, they have to stop where they are. And as players continue to finish, they'll take in order the token that's there, depending obviously on the amount of players. This would be a 4-player game. Then you'd move to the resolution phase, going in player order based upon what you just took at the end of that round. Each player is going to do one line of their program. So I got the timer, so I'll go first. I would say A1 to 54, and there will actually be an extra box there to put a check mark if you actually did fulfill any of the numbers, or an X if you didn't, just to help you with bookkeeping. But this is 54 and this is 54. So what I get to do is, since I'm the first one to get this, I get to select either one of those two types of influence. So I'm going to select the little the quill pen there. And so on my sheet, I'm going to be able to put a check mark right there on my little quill pen. That just lets me know that I've got that. Now, the other one from this patron is available for other people. So you'd actually flip it up knowing that this is the one that's left over. So if somebody else got 54, they would have to take this one here. And if you're playing on a 3 or 4 player game, if someone took this, then this would actually get flipped over. And if anybody else got this, they actually get to check off this summation. This is sort of a failed experiment. They just weren't fast enough. And actually in the final game, this won't have a majority. This will actually just be 1 point for each one of that failed experiment. So once everyone's done their first line in order, we'd go to the second line. I said A4, and I basically swapped it to 45, but I did not make any numbers of 45. So again, there would be a column here. I'd put an X in just to remind me I didn't, complete anything, and everyone else would do their second row as well. And then I'd start my third row, A1 plus 46. Well, I did this. This is my subroutine that I'd selected at the beginning of that round. This is going to give me a special ability or a one-time action that I'll be able to use anytime I want throughout the game, assuming you follow the rules on the card. And this one's cool because if you look here, it allows me during a round take up to 2 operations above your current limit. Notice that most of the rounds are going to be 5, but there's 2 extra here because when I activate this, I'll actually be able to have 7 different lines in a specific round. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. And when you do complete a subroutine, you actually are able to check this because if you because you can only do 1 per round, if you get all 4 of them over the 4 different rounds, you get up to 16 points at the end of the game. Now, as other people are, activating their lines of code and such, these are going to be getting turned over and things like that as I showed this, but I'm just kind of going through my lines to show you how it would work. And then I went B2 minus, which gets me to 26, and then B2 minus got me to 6, which gets me this. Let's say it was just like that. I would take maybe this again to try to really work on this majority here, and then maybe somebody else might be able to get the lightning bolt from them just like that. Once all players have gone through, that will be the end of the round. So you'd get back to this pre-programming phase, and now I can use one of these to put up here. Let's say I put this one, and again, this one is sideways, which means I can actually use it when I want. When I do use it, I would flip it over, meaning it can't be used again. Now let's say for some reason I did not get this flipped over and this was my subroutine for last time. Going to this next round, I could keep this here or I could swap it out and put a different one here and be able to, maybe work on that one. So that's sort of how the subroutines work, with each of the rounds there. Then we would reset up for the next round. All of these patrons that are here, whether they were, fulfilled or not, they all get removed out of the game and new ones will come out. And for example, there'd be some new patrons. Then, in this next round, we're going to fill up this row C, and these are going to be different every game. There's many of these different tokens that you'll use. There's actually way more than this, and they're going to come out randomly off the top of stacks to fill in this specific row. And so let's say we have these. Now this one's just a divide or multiply by 4. This one, if you remember, we used this one to swap numbers. This one, whatever the first number is, also becomes the second number. So let's say you had 57. This would make it 55 because this first number also now is your second number. It makes you get the number, two of the numbers will be the same. This one actually just implicitly sets your program to this number. So in this case, we just boom, goes right to 77. This one is just like the other normal operators, plus or minus 35. Now notice that this 0 has a 1. Next round after you're done, you'd fill up D, and next round after that, the final round would be here. Notice that these have 1, 2, and 4 points. And so each time you actually check off a box, meaning you successfully match the number of a patron or a subroutine using an operator in the C, D, or E rows, you check one of these off. So in the C row, each of those is worth 1 point. So if you've used successfully 3 different operators in C, you get the max of 3 points. D, each of them are worth 2, and E, each of them worth 4. Now during the game, if you're going through your operations and you realize you made an error, you can actually stop, take a bug, which you'd circle this and it'd be minus 3 at the end of the game, and you would actually get 1 minute to then from that point on redo your program. It's just a way to be a little bit forgiving, but you'll get minus points for that. And so as those rounds go on, when you're in the 5th round, you'd get new ones. On the 6th round, you get new ones. And by the way, whenever these come out, you can always use these or anything before it. So by the time you get to this very last round, you have all of these operations to your ability. And so after that last round, we go through each of these majorities and see who has them, whoever has the most check marks. First place, you get 9 points. Second place, you get 4 points. If you're tied first place, each of you get 6 and second place gets nothing. And you know, if you tie second place, you split those as well. So I'd go through, let's say I got second place here, I got second place here, I tied for first here, I got first here, and the field experiments, again, is not going to be majority. The final game will be 1 point for each. Let's say I got 2. And let's say I also was able to activate some of the C and D rows once each, and let's say I activated, completed 2 of my subroutines. And so we just put all the points up here, all the ones from my majorities, all the ones from the gears, all the ones from my subroutines, minus any bugs, and there you have the points. Whoever has the most is the winner. And if it's tied, you'd go to the one who had the most check marks in the gear here for the C, D, and E's. Still tied, you'd go to the one who has the least amount of failed experiments. And then it's the earliest one in play order if it's still tied in that last round. And if it's still tied, this is cool, the player who most recently ran an update on a computer program or app would win. And just in case you want to take a look at some of the other characters' subroutines, here are 2 sets of those now. Feel free to pause and check out the abilities. And here's the last set that I haven't yet shown on camera. Feel free to pause and check them out. All right, well, there's Lovelace and Babbage. Now let's first start out with the great historical theme. Artana Games is kind of known for doing these things now. You know, they started it with, the Tesla and Edison, the full Euro game. Then they came out with Tesla Edison Duel, which I really loved. Was one of my, I think, might have even been my 2-player game of the year that year. I loved it. And then even more recently, Speakeasy Blues, another great historical theme. And I love historical themes. I love learning about things. I had never heard of Ada Lovelace or Mr. Babbage before this, but it really drew me into the world. It made me want to find out who all these other characters are, and I learned a lot. I love that about games, that you can learn things. I also love the inclusion aspect of this, where, you know, Ada is going to be, you know, it's just a rock star, if you will, and I'm glad to see that a rock star female is being brought into and highlighted in games like this. I love the fantastic art. Again, always with Artana Games, their graphic design and artwork is always top notch, draws you in, and this one does the same. For the game itself, if you don't know, I'm an engineer in my day job. And so, as you know, engineers use a lot of math, and I tend to be more of a mathy person than a word person. So this game really spoke to me. I love that you're trying to figure out these different lines of code by just doing these simple mathematical operations in your head, but you're looking forward, you're looking at the operations, you're looking at your subroutines, you're looking at the available different people to try to match the numbers for and get those different influence. And there's a lot to think about, but I love that, like, you're trying to go for as many numbers that you can complete as possible, But as the game goes on, you're going to sort of try to change and maybe go for specific icons that you're fighting for, majorities for. You're going to be looking, you can see other players' sheets, you can see what you're in the lead for before the round starts, which ones you might be able to kind of sneak up on, and your strategy is going to change depending on what other players do, so there's definitely a lot of interaction. This is not a solitaire style game where you're just thinking about math and doing it yourself. No, the majorities is the name of the points of this game, so you've got to be watching what other people are doing, and you'll be interacting with that in that way. I love the art to the game. How each round, the first round it starts off with just 8 operations, and each round 4 more come out. By the last round, man, are there a lot of choices, and everyone's going to be doing something differently depending on their subroutines and what the majorities or which people they're going for, and I like that. I liked selecting your own subroutine, looking at it, and maybe, this would be a really cool ability to have. Let me see how I can get there. Or, you know what, this number, I could get there like in 1 or 2 actions. Is it worth it? And you're always trying to figure out which subroutine should I highlight for this round, and I like that. I also like that if you don't get it, you can swap it out with a different one the next round. It gives you a lot of flexibility there. Using the abilities of those subroutines are cool because you get to decide, as long as you've completed that subroutine, when to do it. And some of the cards tell you when to do it, but you don't have to do it like that round. You could do it whenever you want. And I like that aspect of it. You could get one that might not be, maybe you backed into one that was just an easy number to get, but the ability didn't help you this round, but maybe it will help you in another round. And I like the flexibility of that. I like that when you end the round and you're setting up the next round, again, like let's say you get to the end, you've gotten your 4th of your 5th line of code, you're able to match a number, and there's not a whole lot you can do with your next number. Well, you look down at your subroutines that are available, and you can try to set yourself up so maybe you're 1 away from that. I like that you're not always just trying to go for the different influence of the different characters up top, but you're also trying to set yourself up for your own subroutines for future rounds. I typically love real-time games, and this is real-time, but I like that the timer doesn't start until one person finishes. So it's not that everyone's under the gun right off the bat. I mean, you're definitely rushing, but it's not like it's over. Like you at least get 1 minute to know, okay, you've got 1 minute left. And I think that helps with the people that don't like real-time as much. The game has a ton of replayability, different operations, different characters come out top, the people that you're influencing, and so that puzzle is going to change every time. This is a crunchy filler that will definitely give you a brain workout in a small amount of time. You're playing it in 30 minutes or less, but when you're done, you really are going to feel like you did a brain workout. I really love that. Anything negative about the game? Well, the game is real time, and even though, like I just mentioned, it's you get 1 minute once the first person's done, you're still under pressure, you're still trying to do things fast, you're still racing other people in a way, and some people just don't like that pressure, and real-time things aren't for everybody. So if you don't tend to like real-time games, this might not be the one for you. Also, it's the whole game's math. I mean, it's very mathy, and so people that don't like math or don't like calculations, I mean, this probably isn't going to be the game for you. But I do know that they are possibly working on a variant that will allow the game to be balanced. Like, for example, I'm an engineer. If I'm playing with someone who's like an English major, there's going to be ways to balance the game to give them a little bit of a head start to make the game more balanced. And I think that's cool too. So people that maybe are not as fast or as good calculation-wise as you can still have a shot at winning the game, and I think that's going to be cool too. So overall, for me, this game's perfect. Oh my gosh, I love filler games. I love crunchy filler games. I love theme, all this stuff. It's great. But I can definitely see that this is not going to be for everyone, and I think that's fine. I would rather have a game come out that a certain select group of people absolutely love and a certain group of people definitely don't love, rather than just have everyone be like, it's okay. So I'm fine with that. This game's for me, and hopefully from what I've told you today, you should be able to know if it's for you, and that's Lovelace and Babbage. I've placed the link below me of the Kickstarter project that you can check out the project itself and possibly even support the game.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com.